I just love these people that I'm co-laboring with even more.
Yeah.
And I'm just amazed, especially because we've spent a lot of time getting to know nonprofit leaders,
Yeah.
especially what they're doing and the passion they have and how they're impacting people who have great needs that might be overlooked. But
Yep.
boy, the Lord has really assembled a great group of people here in our community. And
Yeah.
I just love it. I love thinking about them. I love talking to them. I love hearing what they're doing.
Yeah. Sitting down today with my friend Larry Russell, who we've been walking together for a long time. We're old, Larry.
40 years.
Yeah. And we've both been in pastoral ministry most of that time. And then recently, after he stepped down from Love Inc., you stepped down from Love Inc., I should say, and I moved to City Serve, we both have a very similar focus in our lives right now, and that's serving pastors and leaders in the community, which is really ironic that we would do the same thing for so long, and then we'd switch gears and we both end up doing the same. We'd switch gears to the same thing. So we're going to talk today a little bit about what Larry's doing right now and the vision he has for the Ministerial Association, which you just took over leadership of this fall, and with a real gentle switch in focus from a collegiality kind of perspective on the Ministerial Association to something much more personal, much more, I think, intimate, if you can say that about a bunch of pastors getting together. So why don't you just share with us a little bit about how that inspiration for that came, because it was a little different than I think most people would understand it to be.
Well, I guess it started when the last Ministerial Association was coming to an end. You know, we stop in June and we elect new officers for the fall. And so what occurred was a number of people, friends, came up to me and lamented kind of where the Ministerial Association was at and pretty discouraged about the content. And they said, would you lead? And I thought, oh boy, I got to talk to my wife about this because this is supposed to be retirement.
Yeah.
You know, which is not, that's just not
It's
happening.
not a thing.
No, it's not a thing at all. And so I thought, well, if I did this, what I would really like to do is have pastors just share personally who they are, how they got here, what their family is, and then maybe end with vision. You know, what's their vision for their congregation and for the city, church in the city. And then I started thinking, well, I would not only want to just do pastors, I'd want to do nonprofit leaders. And so I stepped up to the plate and put my hat in the ring. Of course, nobody else was there for obvious
There's
reasons.
not much competition.
Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah.
And was elected to be president. And Mark Schmutz said, Larry, if you'll do presidente, I'll be vice president. We can do it together. And of course, we had James Dieter. He's the treasurer, and Bob Giles, both of longtime friends, as the secretary. And so we had a really good team starting out. And so I started thinking about who would I like to hear from, just me personally. And I thought about a whole bunch of names of people that have either been here quite a while, have a lot to contribute, or brand new newbies to the cause. And then I thought, who are the nonprofits? And I was surprised about how many nonprofit leaders there were in the community whose names bubbled up to the surface. And I thought, I got a whole year's full of stuff here. But I really wanted that meeting to be a time where we get a closer look into who we're co-laboring with in the community. Because I have felt like for years that we've been real distant with that.
Well, it's a hard thing to do.
Yes.
I mean, for one, it's hard to get people together. And then once you get them together, it's hard for them to be transparent.
Yeah.
You know, we all have an agenda that we carry, you know, whether we're pastors or leaders, and it's hard to lay that down and just be real.
Yes.
And somehow, Larry, you have figured out a way to make that happen, and I'm just so proud of you for putting that out in front.
Yeah.
I mean, you give people an outline and you ask them 5 or 6 questions, and if you follow that outline, you can't help but talk about yourself a little bit,
Right.
which is, it's simple, but it doesn't happen very often. So congrats for being able to pull that off.
Yeah.
What is the thing that you hope rises up in those meetings? What's the feeling you want people to have while they're there?
Well, there's several things that I'm hoping for. And number one, there's the initial, wow, I didn't know this person. I didn't know that ministry existed for nonprofits. And I didn't know God was working in that and had put people in those positions and what they're doing. And that's the first thing, is just to raise awareness. But, you know, after at the meeting closes, we pray for the people who have shared. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I'm hoping that continues on, that as the people who are there at KLMA remember these names, that they'll continue to pray for them.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping their hearts will grow closer to them, just as people share the personal stuff that I asked them to share. And they've tracked with it really good. I feel good about it. I give them a list of like 10 things. Hey, could you please touch on this stuff?
Yeah.
And of course, we're limited in time. They only get 12 minutes each. And
it's definitely by the clock.
Yeah. Oh, Mark has his little stopwatch there, and when it goes off, the people know, okay, I need to draw this to a close. I wish we had longer, because, but we don't. And
but it's weird, because the podcast that I'm doing, the leadership podcast I'm doing, which we're doing right now, this is doing the same thing. I mean, we are both like on this parallel track with the focus on not leading anything really, but serving. Yeah. Which, doesn't it feel good?
Yes, it
to
does.
be doing that because I just know, I know because of my conversations with the pastors, how blasted hard it is to pastor a church in this day and age. And now that we're no longer doing that, we can focus more on just serving people and making sure that people have a voice, and making sure that, like, some of the things that those people share at Ministerial Association, I've known these people for years. I didn't know how that's how they got saved. Yeah. I didn't know that's how they met their spouse. You know, it's pretty remarkable. Yeah.
And how God called them to the community and what their vision is. So it's going really well. And what you're doing is taking the whole conversation deeper, and which is really helpful. So it's like, I'm trying to just get them to pay attention to one another and value one another, the people that God has drawn here to our community. And you're going deeper with your podcasts, and that's great. It's
Isn't it fun though?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I feel like every time I sit down with somebody, I get to know them, know things about them I would have never known had we not done just this one thing. Mm-hmm. And I feel the same way about the Ministerial Association. When I leave those meetings, I'm really grateful, one, that I got to know that person a little bit more, but two, that I got to pray for that person. Yeah. I mean, the prayer is like, most people's idea of prayer is a prayer closet with a list of prayer requests. And here we are, just like, okay, everybody gather around this person and just pray for them. And there's no guideline to that. You can just pray however you want. Yeah. And some of the things are very prophetic that are being prayed over them. It's really exciting.
Yeah. I have a follow-up to that I think I'm going to put out, and that is a list of the prayers each one is asked for prayer for. Yeah. And hand that out to those who attend so they can continue to intercede for them. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm going to do that this spring, just as a summary for what we had, and then we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like there's any desire. I mean, when you're in ministry a long time, you realize there's an antsiness that people get when they're doing the same thing, and they want change. They don't really know what they want to change to. They just want to change. They just want it to be different, and with the hopes it'll be more. I just feels like people think we could do this for a couple of years and not exhaust
Exactly.
this model that we're using right now.
Yeah. Well, don't let the cat out of the bag, because that's kind of where I'm thinking that we should go for next fall as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So.
And it's really, I was talking to James, who's the treasurer of the Ministerial Association, so he's involved in the leadership of it too, and he's like, this is the best thing that we've done in years together.
Yeah.
And so he's even excited from the inside.
Yeah, he's been very encouraging. So.
Yeah.
It seems to be going well. And when we end by dividing up and praying for the people that have shared, I've noticed that hardly anybody leaves. They don't take advantage of that transition to head out the door. They stay and pray, a good number of them. So,
and if they're not comfortable praying, they just watch prayer happen at a pretty deep level. It's pretty cool. And you have two people who are in two different places being prayed for. So, you're doing a great job with it, Larry. I really am. I'm really excited about it.
It's a lot of fun.
So, as you when you think back over your years in leadership in the city, how do you think the pastors are doing here? I know this is kind of like a different direction, maybe for us to go in this interview, but how do you feel the pastors are doing?
That is a really good question, Jeff. I think a number of them are challenged like they've never been challenged before, just in my conversations with them. I think they're having a really hard time, but they're persevering, which makes me proud of their willingness to stand their ground and not give up. So I think the pressure that's on pastors now is a lot greater than it was before. That's the first thing. I think it's more difficult for them to try to connect with one another like we did early on, when we started praying together at Cannon Beach and had the prayer time on, well, it changed different days, but when we
did it together.
Yes.
The change happened together. We were kind of a herd being moved. And so, there is a lot of individualism right now.
There is. For me, it's been just a little bit discouraging because I felt like we really had some momentum years ago that was going deeper, and we were doing things together and things like that. And I feel like that's almost completely lost, that there's, for whatever reason, I think that the unity of the Spirit here in the community is hard to find.
But don't you think, I don't want to, you can disagree with me if you want, but don't you think that unity came out of our relationships with each other? And it wasn't that we were unified and that brought us into relationship. It was the other way around. We were walking together, meeting together, being friends with each other, and out of that came prayer. Out of that came the prayer summit. Out of that came the house of prayer. Out of that came a lot of worship gatherings in the city. Yeah. And I think some people on the outside thought these guys are just putting on events, and it wasn't that way at all. We were walking together.
Yes.
And one of the things I've been trying to do with this next generation of leaders is say, if you want to go somewhere together, it has to start with a relationship. You can't hope that the events create relationship. At least that's been our experience. Maybe they'll do it differently. I don't know.
Well, for that to happen, you have to be willing to carve out time to invest in it. So if we don't do that, then the emergence of a deeper relationship and cohesiveness of working together just won't happen.
Well, how long did we meet every week for 2 hours and talk? I mean, who does that? There was nothing else in my life that I gave that much time to. Yeah. Which is a really weird thought to have, that here I am leading a congregation, and yet a great deal of my time was spent building a relationship with just 3 or 4 guys.
Yes, and you've done that well over the years.
Yeah.
So, which may be the reason why we have favor to be able to invite, in your case, people to come in and create a podcast. It may explain why I can ask them to share things and they don't. Okay, Larry, if you want, that's what you want.
Okay, Larry. We'll keep Larry happy. No, they're not that way at all. They respect us. They respect you, and they honor you, and they are grateful, I think, for the time you put in just serving the community.
Well, this has been a blessing to me because I just love these people that I'm co-laboring with even more. Yeah. And I'm just amazed, especially because we've spent a lot of time getting to know nonprofit leaders, especially what they're doing and the passion they have and how they're impacting people who have great needs that might be overlooked. But boy, the Lord has really assembled a great group of people here in our community. And I just love it. I love thinking about them. I love talking to them. I love hearing what they're doing. Yeah. Because then it gives me fuel for intercession for them. So seems like I have more time for prayer now than I did before. Maybe that wasn't the case, but as a name pops up to me, I just go into prayer for them, and I'm armed with some information about where they need prayer at.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you. I really am grateful. Well, for one, that we're still alive and walking together. I mean, this is pretty cool. After as long as we've spent time together, and I remember when I first started, you dragging me into an office as the kid, the new kid, and here we've been at it in the same city with the same kind of heart for the city for a long time. Yeah. So well done, Larry.
And we're still friends, Jeff.
And we're still friends.
Deeper friends, I think.
I think so. We've been through a lot together, and that really helps.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.